So I'm going to be making feijoada. So feijoada is like Brazilian. It's Brazil's national dish of black beans and sausage and other pork products. So we'll just get this started. Right now I have a bowl of black beans that I've soaked for about overnight. Generally about minimum 8 hours. So far it's been about 24 for these, but 8 hours is just fine. You want to add some salted water to this, basically enough till the water tastes salty. I heard from Heston Blumenthal that this helps the beans not explode when they're cooking. I don't know if that's actually true, but Heston probably knows his stuff. So what we're gonna need is some celery, some green bell peppers, 4 of them, some onions, two. A smaller onion. Yeah, that's right. 4 onions. And just a touch of it. Okay, so first thing we're gonna need is cutting board. Find it. Here and a chef's knife. Right here. Okay, so you want to use a combination of pork products. The thing that's not really negotiable is some kind of sausage. Traditionally, this is used with linguiça, but I really like Andouille sausage from Louisiana. It generally just has a better smoky, sweet characteristic. I find it's a little more complex than pure linguiça. So I have 2 pounds of beans. For every pound of beans, you probably want to have about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of combination of pork sausage. This can be sausage and ham hocks, sausage and bacon. What I have here is pork neck bones that I found. Some kind of smoked, salted pork product works really well. So ham hocks, it's like ham hocks, straight bacon. Really thick bacon is really good. If you can get some pieces called like bacon ends, those are really good. But really non-negotiable here is some kind of smoked sausage. I like Cajun style andouille. Traditional is linguiça. I'm pretty sure if you use like a garlic sausage, like a Polish Kielbasa, it will probably also work great. Just using 2 pounds of straight sausage is fantastic too, per pound. So I'll cut this out. This is a Dell's. I generally use Johnsonville, but this was on sale. This is typically a more expensive sausage. Oh, and if you really want the best ones, like I've been commented that mine is particularly very good from Brazilians, and they asked what's the secret. I'm pretty sure the secret is actually just frying the sausage and using dry beans. They asked me if I use like bouillon cubes or something. I don't actually use anything except water, and even salt is kind of minimal, just because the sausage is salty. If you're using bacon, it's salty. These pork neck bones probably are like cured, and they're also salty. So a lot of your seasoning actually comes from the sausage. So I'm gonna cut these on a diagonal. Gives you more surface area. They kind of look nicer. Hello. I'm documenting me making my dish.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll ever post this or if I'm just going to give it to people like Professor Miriam asking how I actually make this. Yep. So I'm making this for a party tomorrow. UFC 313 with Alex Perev and Magomed Ankalaev. Should be very exciting. So, put this all in here. So, what we're doing right now is, I've had others that, other Brazilians make me. I think one of the key difference here is I actually fry my sausage and I fry it pretty hard. So, you'll see exactly what I mean by that. So, generally almost to the point where it's almost kind of burnt. So yeah, this is about 12 ounces each. I think this is, 12 ounces each, so 3 of them, 36 ounces. So we're looking at about 2 pounds and a quarter. And this is about another pound of neck bones. So you're looking at about 3 pounds of total smoked pork product. I have some bacon in there, but I think I'll leave that out. I think we have enough fatty pork product. Anyways, and I typically don't like American bacon into it. It's not bad. Like, of the tiers of meats you could have, it definitely qualifies, but I just kind of find, like, especially the thin ones you get from the store, just, I don't know. I'd rather have sausage that is nice and thick like this. I think it's about 3/8 of an inch. Much better. Now the sausage will actually provide you most of the seasoning. I'm not actually going to add much more than just the sausage. I'm gonna have some garlic and some bay leaves. Fresh garlic, some fresh bay leaves, but a lot of cases, this is really, the seasoning mostly comes from the sausage. And that's why I say it's not negotiable. Now, I have made like a vegan version of it, and it's quite good. You'll just need to actually figure out this. You have to reverse engineer the seasoning mix from the sausage back down into the like a black bean mixture. So generally, I would like look up the seasoning recipe for a pound of sausage for andouille and figure out the measurements for garlic powder, paprika, salt, all those sort of dynamics that already go into the sausage that is not the actual meat itself, and then put that back into like a vegan version of this dish. And that works out pretty well. You get a lot of the flavors. I generally sub out the actual meat portion with some mushrooms, particularly like portobello mushrooms. Those work pretty well. So I'm going to make my life easier and use the food processor because I have a lot of vegetables to go through. So for every pound of black beans, I would say use about 4, like this one's a larger onion, this one's kind of a medium size, medium size, medium size. I'd probably say about two onions, maybe 1.5 a large onion. If you're relatively new to cooking, this stuff really doesn't matter. Like if you're just in the ballpark, it's not gonna ruin the dish if you add like 1 onion more or 1 onion less. Like, even if you're like, hey, I have only a pound of sausage versus a pound and a half, it really doesn't matter that much. I'll try and find a shredder disc. Okay. So, I'm going to shred all my onions and all my celery, but I'm actually going to hand dice my green bell peppers. The reason for that is the green bell peppers, the onions and the celery kind of dissolve into the dish because this cooks for about 4 to 5 hours. But the green bell peppers actually retain a lot of their integrity. And if you shred the green bell peppers, you kind of just get a homogeneous stew with some sausage and some meat bits in it, which is nice. But the nice square pieces of green bell peppers is really nice inside the dish. So you can get away with shredding the celery and the onions because they'll just break down and they'll kind of become like paste. But the green bell peppers, I really do think it's worth it to hand chop yourself. And if you don't have a food processor, just chop it all yourself, dice it up into bits. Like, that's fine. I just have a whole lot to actually go through, so that's why I'm doing this right now. So, looking at this, probably like 2 stalks of these are huge. Yeah, these are huge stalks of celery. So, about 2 stalks per. Is this cross-contamination? No, because it's actually fully cooked sausage in there, so it really kind of doesn't matter. Like, it's cooked meat product on a vegetable cutting board, so it's not that big of a deal. So, yeah. What am I doing? So there's this. Oh, the heat I have on that right now is high, but because it's a Staub Dutch oven, it takes a really long time to actually heat up that cast iron. So you want about a medium-high heat, but you actually do want a good sear. And if you don't know what that is, some people may think that this is cooked down, a lot of the fat has rendered out, which is actually really key to this flavor. But this is not seared. It's kind of pale, it's brown. I really need this to boil out and then start actually hard frying this sausage. That's what I think makes one of the biggest differences here. That's dangerous. So, onions. Now, Oh, that's quite efficient. I generally like the shredder attachment just because it's so much more consistent than using the blades. For a lot of things in this case anyways. And particularly any stewed dishes, like I really don't think the texture of particularly the onions and the celery really come through at all. But I do prefer that it's consistent. So when I do fry it in that oil, I don't have like a huge chunk of onion fluttering around in there. What am I doing, battery? Probably doesn't matter too much, but... Maybe I'll do 3 onions? I don't know. We'll see how much this produces right now. Yeah, so I made this dish actually while starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I just have this weird thing. It was just this weird thing about wanting to delve into the culture of what I was doing. The weird thing is I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out in Iowa. So actually when I made this dish, I had no frame of reference for about 4 years of if my version was actually any good. So, are we getting anywhere? Alright, yep, so this is starting to get there. It's actually kind of sticking to the bottom. So I'm going to lower the heat to about medium-ish, just so I don't hard burn things, but you'll want a pretty significant char on this, like more than you think. Let's wipe that. Higher than that. Can I cram that all in there? Yep. How much do I have right now? Yeah. Ooh, that stings really hard. Yeah, I'll do another onion. And you can say it's like too many onions, so it's like, hey, do you want less onions? Go do you. I'm just doing how I feel like it. But it's like I said, it's not gonna make or break the dish if you put 1 too many onions or 1 less onion than what I'm doing. Cooking's really about, what is it, Marco Pierre White says it's your choice, your preference. Yeah, so I didn't have a frame of reference how good this dish was. And now that I actually have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor that's actually from Brazil, one day I said that I'd make this dish, and me being dumbass Chinese guy, she didn't believe that I could actually make this dish. So, yeah, regardless of whether or not she thought it was right, I actually wanted just to know if I was in the right frame of reference. Sorry, battery died. Combination of battery and it got too hot, but you didn't actually miss anything. I just cleaned up the sink, and this continued to go frying. So this is getting to that point that where I was talking about So if you can see right there, you see like the crispy bits, like if you eat it, the outside should be kind of like hard and crispy. Wondering if it was served on its own, like probably too tough. That's exactly kind of what you want, this heavily overcooked texture. Because it has, while it's kind of overcooked by itself, not necessarily super pleasant to eat on its own. This will soften a lot, and that texture will help develop while this is cooking for like 4 to 5 hours. And it's a really nice contrast to the soft beans as well as the soft vegetables to have like this nice crunchy texture. And I think that's why it's like frying is such an integral step here. It develops a lot of flavor. There's a lot of brown stuff on the bottom that's kind of stuck on. It's actually quite nice. And it makes a really nice texture contrast inside the stew. So I'm gonna do the vegetables next. So we're gonna jack this up. So the hot oil's kind of hot enough for me when I throw the onions and celery and everything in there that it will start sizzling. So I just have like 5 green bell peppers out here. Like I said, it's not gonna make or break the dish if you have one less. So about like 2 to 3 green bell peppers per pound of beans. Like I said, I have 2 pounds. I'm making this for a party. So typically I would only do 1 pound. 1 pack of sausage and some form of smoked meat product. So other inspirations for your smoked salted meat product could be there's bacon ends. My favorite is ham hocks, that's for sure. I didn't see them at Safeway, so that's a bummer. But these pork neck bones, probably smoked pork neck bones, pretty good. If you have a leftover ham, that's ham on the bone. That's fantastic in there as well. Something called bacon ends is really good. Yeah. Bacon ends is really good. There's something called salt pork, which is basically bacon that's been unsmoked, and it comes in a huge square hunk. That's also really good. I prefer that to actual bacon because in that piece you can make these really big quarter-inch, you can make these big half-inch slabs, and those are much nicer in the product. I'm gonna jack this up to high. Just because it's cast iron, this is a lot of meat product, but you can see like this oil and it coating all these vegetables is really, really, really important right now. And I want to just fry these till they soften. I actually don't know how important this is, but it's mostly important to like scrape up all the bottom bits that got stuck down there. That it's really important that you don't burn that because this now actually has a whole ton of flavor. Like you can kind of just see it, that it's all coated in this oil, this wonderful oil with all the spices, all the salts and everything, the peppers and the spices, the salts, and then when it got fried on the bottom and got stuck in the bottom, that's called fond. And typically we would deglaze that in any sort of pan sauce, but in this case I'm using the onions and the wetness from the whole shredding process to actually deglaze this whole thing. Also gonna add the green bell peppers in there. Don't worry about overcooking things. Like the only way you can overcook this is if you just literally burn the dish, because the whole thing's gonna get cooked for like 5 to 6 hours. Everything's gonna be overcooked. The onions are gonna be overcooked. The celery is gonna be overcooked. Like we're not here looking for like 3 Michelin star perfectly cooked vegetables here. The bell peppers, even though they've been cooking in this process, they'll be cooking for like 5 hours. They'll still retain some of the integrity. So you'll actually still see like these green pieces floating around inside the stew, which I just think is like really, really pleasant. Gives a nice contrast. Even texturally, even though they're kind of soft, they're a different texture than the rest of the beans and the rest of the meat. So I'm just dicing this up. Yes, Some of these are going to be uneven, some of these are going to be bigger than others. Don't really worry about it, because you don't really care about these cooking evenly. I just want it so that if, when you have a spoon of it, you can just get a nice square piece of bell pepper that shows up with it. I'm using a lot, like 5 green bell peppers, because I like them. I think they just add a really nice contrast, and it's okay if it's a little more vegetable heavy to bulk up the full product. How much garlic do I have? Yeah, I'm probably going to use the rest of this. I kind of don't actually know how important using fresh garlic, or even it at all, in the dish. I don't know if you would actually notice it. I definitely think the onions, the celery, and the green bell peppers make a big difference because of just the quantity you're using it. But I really don't know if actually using 6 cloves of garlic is that big of a deal. Because the whole point of the sausage is that you're using a garlic sausage. You're using like a linguiça, or you're using a kielbasa or andouille. Like the one connection they all have is they're all garlic sausages. So they already have either fresh garlic or garlic powder in them. And can you use garlic powder? In theory, yeah. I haven't actually used it. In fact, if like I said, if you removed garlic entirely, like fresh garlic entirely, I don't think the dish would actually suffer that much. I don't want that end. There. I think my kitchen looks a bit like a disaster. That's because this is what real cooking looks like, and not a bunch of YouTubers who has a perfectly set kitchen, something like that. Like, this is actually what my at-home cooking resembles. Unless I clean it on the weekends and get everything nice and pretty, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I think it's more real. Like, actually, one of the better videos I saw from Kenji was when he actually made pizza during the pandemic, like the first month of the pandemic, and he screwed it up really, really bad because the pizza just folded over, it tore and everything. That was actually really revealing to me, because it was like some indication that even the professionals can screw up that bad, and most of the time you never ever actually see that. So I think if this looks like one of Kenji's first person videos, that's not a coincidence. I don't even know if I'm going to post this up. Mostly this might just be for an archive for some future me to know if I never make this dish again. Oh, remember that dish? How did I used to make it? Where were the steps? Because some people ask me for the recipe of this, and I don't actually have it written out. It's kind of a rough guideline from Serious Eats' Feijuada dish, which I think Kenji actually wrote. And then I just use that as a rough framework to cook this dish. So while I'm waiting for that to go, I'm gonna turn my oven. We'll turn it on convection bake to, let's not do convection bake. Let's do a bake at 275. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, mostly because it's a set and forget. Can you use stovetop? Yes. You're probably gonna have to baby stirring it around more. That's just the nature, because the heat's coming from the bottom, and the chance of you burning it is kind of higher. Whereas if you use the oven, it's more set and forget. Your chance of burning it is quite low because the heat's coming from all directions instead of just bottom up, and the bottom is more hot than the top will be. So this is still like boiling. I actually don't really know how big of a deal this is. Like, if I just tossed everything together, it's probably going to taste really good. Like, most of the actual frying step has happened here. Like, all like the nice flavors have kind of already happened here. That I think even just cooking this right now is probably redundant. I haven't done any like A/B testing, but I'm pretty sure if I tossed all the beans, the sausage, the pork, and then throw the water on it with some bay leaves, it's probably just going to be just fine. But it makes me feel better. That's really a lot of cooking. Mostly, like, we don't have the resources like America's Test Kitchen or Eats or Ethan Kielbasa, who do a bunch of A/B testing with recipes to see what happens. A lot of the times the advice we give out is because we've been doing it for so long and it just works. And deviating from any step, like we could deviate from it, but we don't have like 2 different feijoadas to try where I sauteed this until all the water boiled out versus when I didn't, and actually see if I made any difference at all. So I wouldn't really worry about that step too much. It's good to know like the science of this, because maybe sometimes you can rationale that. I think skipping that step might not be a bad idea. And because in theory, when you're frying it, what are you doing? You're developing Maillard reaction flavors. You're creating, it's like those nice fried flavors. But we already did that all in the sausage. And I'm very sure that the sausage is pretty key to this whole thing, because it has the fat content, has the spices to actually make that happen. Oh, garlic going everywhere. In the same way, it's like, can I use garlic powder? Probably. The reason I think probably is because this is cooking so long that any of the volatile compounds out of fresh garlic, like the allicin and stuff, probably aren't actually relevant anymore. It's like it's so cooked down that probably what ends up happening is the only thing that remains is the stuff that would stay in a dehydrated garlic form. So, these are rough chop. Like I said, I wouldn't really worry too much because this is cooking down for so long that this is probably just going to dissolve into the dish. It's probably going to just turn into like a garlic mush. And no one's really going to ever notice a huge piece of garlic in their dish anyways. It's all just going to infuse into the dish. So I left out 1 green bell pepper because I just looked at the amount that's here. And I think I'm pretty happy with that amount. I think 1 more might be going a bit too far, but like I said, it probably wouldn't make or break the dish. So, you know what? I'm kind of feeling lazy today, so I'm just gonna call that good. So I drained out all the soaking water. I think you've heard it's like, oh, the soaking water has flavor, or the soaking water has like the things that make you fart. The reason I don't have it is I don't particularly, A, it's salty. B, I don't particularly like the flavor it has. So I just toss it out and I'll just use some fresh water after that. Okay. Alright. So, here's the secret. Water. It's frying the sausage, dried beans that you soak, and not canned ones, and water. And since I soaked the beans in salted water, the beans are kind of probably already salty. Enough that it's covered in this capacity. Add sausage back. Yeah, does it overflow right? It's looks like it's gonna overflow right now. Yes. That's just kind of like the nature of making double batches. Like typically I would only make like 1 pound, but since this is a party, I'd be doing 2. And this is gonna just come up to a boil. Sorry, battery died again. You didn't really miss anything. I'm just letting this come up to a boil. Because it's just faster this way. Like, I really just want to this come up to a boil so that when I throw it in the oven at about 275, it continues on with a simmer. So the only thing I'm adding as far as an accoutrement spice is some bay leaves. So I'd say about I'm going to put 3 bay leaves per pound of beans. So typically in this single batch I would do 3, but because we're doing a double batch, I want to do 3 more. Yeah, and be sure to fish these out afterwards, but I want to make sure that everything is kind of submerged. It's okay if some of the meat pieces are exposed, but I really don't want the beans to not be submerged. The meat pieces can kind of be exposed out to the air, and they'll actually kind of get crispy, and they'll actually get kind of dried out and crispy, which is actually quite nice in this dish. So the only thing is, like, just waiting this to come up to a boil. I'm gonna put a lid kind of cracked open just because I feel like there's a little too much water in here. That's why it's like a little overflowed. I might have been a bit overzealous with the amount of water I added. But you can kind of see it's coming up to a simmer. Time. Our precious oil in there. Okay. This is going to be very heavy. So it's like nice and bubbly. That's actually kind of like the level of simmer I want when it's in the oven. It doesn't have to come up to like a full rolling boil, just enough that it's coming up with some bubbles. In you go. So I was probably gonna go in there for about 4 to 5 hours. It's like 9:30 right now, so I might actually finish this around 12 and kind of let it cool down and wake up in the morning and actually finish it before my party tomorrow at like 3 o'clock. And then so yeah, that's about the recipe so far. Maybe I did it horribly wrong and this won't work out, but I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. So no additional seasoning, no additional salt. Everything actually like is in there. Maybe some black pepper is okay, but we can do it afterwards. Yeah, I'll see you in the morning and see how. Sorry, battery died, so I'll see you tomorrow. So good morning. It's the next day. Actually, I've had a change of plans on how I was going to cook this. So actually, last I left off, it was like 9 p.m. I actually shut off the oven, and then at 12 a.m. I actually turned it back on at 2:25 for 5 hours. And then I shut off the oven. So woke up at like 5 a.m., turned off the oven, went back to bed, and now it's like 7:30. So I actually have not stirred this at all, and I've just been hands off at 2:25. I have no idea right now what state of the feijoada is, but in this case, it's one of the ways that you can cook this super slowly. This isn't something you have to do. It's just that right now it's convenient for me to not have to baby it. So, actually, I could probably pull this out. But there it's. Yep. Right. So, this crust formed. This meat is very tender, which is actually what I was looking for. So, that's good. Try to shred this apart. This is bone. Yeah. That looks like bone. More bones. Yep. This is what I'm looking for. So this is all really good signs. Grab these bay leaves. Looks like the water's reduced Yeah, and I kept the lid on this one, and even then it still evaporated about as much as I wanted. So I'm just shredding up this meat, getting rid of the bones. How does this taste anyways? Looks good. Has a good meat flavor. It's not as salty as like the ham hocks or something like that, clearly. But it's good. I've never used these pork neck bones before. But something meaty, something smoky, preferably salty, but I've also used smoked pork chops. Those are good if you can find them. They were more common back in Iowa. So generally just don't stress about, you know, your 2 pounds of salted pork product. Like they could be a whole lot of different kinds of pork products depending on whatever country you're from. I think in Brazil that they traditionally use like a salted preserved brisket, but no, don't like go out of your way to find that. It's not gonna make or break the dish if you just don't find every single bit of thing. Alright, so this is actually pretty good. Now, I want to stir this around. This looks good right now, but the advantage of stirring this around is the beans will break apart, and then a thick gravy will kind of form. And obviously it can get overly thick, like it can, if you mashed all the beans, this would turn into like refried beans, and we don't really want that, but I want to keep stirring this enough that what I see, you're starting to see it right now form, like a thick gravy, and that's just from all the beans and the starch releasing itself into the water. So actually this looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to taste this right now for salt. It's not bad. I think I could use some salt. It tastes pretty good by itself right now. I just think a little bit, like I haven't added anything. And depending on, sometimes it's like, you might have enough salt because you're using things like ham bones and you're using things like ham hocks that have a lot of salt in them. Sometimes your sausage has a lot of salt. And, you know, in this case, the smoked neck bones don't actually have that much salt. And even though I haven't hadn't added any salt, the salt level is actually okay. I just would like this to be a little saltier. The reason being is that traditionally this is served over rice. So you actually want to bank on this being more salty than you think you would actually just eat on itself. You can eat this by itself. It's very delicious on a sauce, but you have to think of it more like it's a sauce than it is a soup or a stew. Because it's going to be served over unseasoned plain white rice. This really should be more salty than you really think it should be. Yeah. As I said, like, that's now at a seasoning that's kind of maybe pleasant to eat on its own, but that's not what I'm going after. I'm going more after like a sauce level of seasoning, where you wouldn't drink a sauce as a soup, but a really intensely salty sauce is more of what we're after. That's where it should be out. Maybe even a little more. You know, the big difference between most restaurants and your home cooking is about the level of salt that you would add. And typically, I think this could use a little more heat, so I'm gonna add some black pepper. But it's delicious. It's quite where I would want it to be. And like I said, we haven't really stirred it throughout. The difference between you doing it in an oven and doing it on stovetop is your risk of burning this on the stovetop is higher, so you probably need to come over and stir it every now and then just to make sure that the bottom's not burning. In this oven at 225 for 5 hours, and I woke up at 5 a.m. to turn off the oven, and then I just let it coast till like 2-3 hours. It's still plenty warm, so it's perfectly safe this way. So, and it's now at a consistency that I love. All right, so I'm going to load this into a slow cooker. Typically what you would serve with this is rice, and there's this product called Feijuada. This is a fried yucca flour and seasoned, and you would just put it on top like breadcrumbs or something like that. But the texture of this is kind of like sand. It's really gritty. It's not like panko breadcrumbs where you're crunching down on it and it's nice and like airy and pleasant. This is kind of like gritty sand, which doesn't sound very appetizing, but within this thick beans stew, it's actually quite nice. It like gives you a really nice textural contrast with the rice, with the beans, and with the feijuada. So I'm going to load this into a slow cooker, put this feijuada in a box, and yeah, head to the party with it. Someone else is making the rice for me, so that's all cool. Yeah, this is Feijuada. This is how this gets made. Don't get picky about how. Don't get picky about all the ingredients. I'll post a list if I ever post this up. But yeah, you can actually see like the nice green square bell. Like they're overcooked to all hell, but the bell peppers still retain their integrity. But I can't see a single onion or celery piece in there. So even if I chop them up as big pieces, they'll just sort of dissolve. Right. Well, Feijuada. I don't know how many times I'm going to cook and record like this, but I hope you learned how this is made. Maybe if I'll just give it to my professors and they'll be like, oh, that's how it's done. Yep. See ya.